Exclusively,
it's 3:06 on a Thursday afternoon, the 20th day of October in Jesus' third millennium, 2016. We don't have a Bob Montserrat today, so Chris Roloff, Mr. Grouchy Pants, is
a poor substitution.
Is gonna watch the chat. Of course, first call bail bonds, reminding you not to text and drive. And so appreciate you doing that over there, Chris, today. And will you also maybe throw in a little commentary?
Yes. That was terrible. I'm going to figure out a better way to do that.
Yeah, you got to do that up there.
He doesn't have the official hat.
There you go. And, of course, we have Frank.
Of course. Now say that with a little more enthusiasm.
Was it yesterday that I left early?
Yes. No, yeah, yes.
I mean, no, yesterday I wasn't here at all.
Yes, yesterday you were here. You were here, but then you left.
But I was never on the air.
But you were never
yeah.
And I saw we have a little meter of the number of listeners, and you said, I'm going to take off, and Chris is going to finish the show, and the meter just went all the way down. Everybody tuned out.
Well, I didn't hear it myself, but I heard you were bad-mouthing me on the air.
Yes, I did. Would you want me to tell you what I said?
Well, the good news is it's 2016 and I record everything.
Yeah, I can tell you what I said, though. I don't think it was bad. It was actually kind of neat. We had Joel Smith on.
Yeah, Papa Murphy's guy, and he was talking about how the 80-20 rule. Yeah, I heard, Frank, you realize you got that completely wrong. You absolutely got that completely wrong.
What was it?
I guess I'm right. Okay, hurry up. I've got a guess. So what?
I'm sorry. So my point was, what we tend to think about when we think about 80-20 is that there's the 20% that are doing really good, and the rest of us are just 80%ers, and we all want to be those 20% people. Well, what Joel was really getting us to do is think about the 80-20 within ourselves. We act like mediocre people in that 80% if we just do what comes natural, do what's easy for us. For us to be at our 20%, we have to be intentional. We have to know what our purpose is, our mission is. We have to life purpose, right? And I used Mac as an illustration because he's a good template for the comparison. Mac is one of the best broadcasters in Des Moines. No doubt. I'm not just blowing smoke here.
That's the sound of a Hoover sucking. Up.
But he can still perform at the 80%. I've seen him be mediocre. His mediocre is better than other people when they're on the radio. In other words, his mediocre is still above. I'm saying for Mac, I can tell when Mac is doing a 20% Mac and when Mac is in that 80% Mac, because when he does radio just off the cuff, it's still great, it's still good, but I can see he's just doing it off the cuff. So I threw you under the bus by saying that some days you're at your 20%, some days you're 80%, but regardless, it sounds good on the air.
How much do you think that was worth, Damascus? Is that worth a buck?
Maybe. I don't
know. Should I get change?
That's generous.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a buck for what you just said.
99 cents change.
Yeah.
What, you want 99 cents back?
Can you break that?
All right, let's get right to it. And Michael Damascus is here from, I forgot to write it down.
Fort Des Moines Church of Christ.
Okay, every time I point at you, you're going to say that. And we've been waiting how long to talk about this?
Well, we filed in July, but, I've been about this for a long time. In fact, I was originally approached about our court case in November of 2015. So, we're coming up right on a year.
All right. And tell us about the case.
Okay. Well, Alliance Defending Freedom represents and we filed a preemptive lawsuit against the state of Iowa and against the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. Also named in the suit was the city of Des Moines as well. and it was in regards to the public accommodation guidelines and law, and how that is applied to churches. Is that law of giving access to your facility, restrooms and showers, changing rooms and the like, that we do now in our schools, sadly, or in a shopping mall or whatever, is that same law applicable to churches? Well, the fact is the way that the law was, or the guidelines were published, was very, at the minimum, incredibly vague, and the answers just weren't there. And so there was a great fear as to the fact that yes, it may be against churches as well, that we are subject to these same laws.
And these are the laws that came about with the transgendered people.
Yeah, in essence, what the guidelines say about sexual orientation and gender identity is that if you refuse, say you have I mean, honestly, this doesn't apply in an arena where there's with the issue of a restroom where there's multiple stalls, or showers, or changing rooms that are out in the open. And so some churches have a gymnasium and locker rooms and changing rooms and showers and bathrooms. We have in our church multiple stall restrooms and showers in our restrooms. So, I mean, this is something that applies, to us as well. And the issue is that the way that the law and guidelines are worded is that you cannot refuse a person access to the restroom of their choice, because you can't impose gender that is assigned at birth. You have to impose gender that is what they identify with. So, if they identify, they're male biologically, but they identify as a female, and so, sir, you must use the men's restroom or men's showers here at our church building, you would be subject to heavy fines, and come under the guidelines of the law and could face punitive judgment, but because of your actions. Yes.
Have to pay damages.
Yes.
And was this a law that you have to catch me up? This was an Obama executive decision or executive.
Well,
whatever.
Obama
Executive
came into
order.
this kind of late in the game. The actual guidelines that were published by the Iowa Civil Rights Commission were published in 2007. The sexual orientation and gender identity laws. And so, it's. I've heard so much rhetoric.
George Bush put this in?
No, we're talking about the state of Iowa right now.
Oh, okay.
So, we filed our lawsuit in federal court and the district court here, but it was against the state of Iowa, and it was against the city of Des Moines, because the city of Des Moines has ordinances that are very, very similar in nature to the SOGI guidelines and laws that are on the books right now.
I'm noticing here, Pastor Michael, that on the Iowa Civil Rights Commission website, that it appears they have updated.
Yes, they did update that during this whole process.
I was going to say, because this used to be just back in 2007, and they've noted that it is updated. Do you know, did they change anything of note, or did they just try to be more clear?
The scary two parts to that. The answer to that question. One is they did and Cornerstone World Outreach Church in Sioux City did not actually file any lawsuit or try to do anything like that litigious activity. But what they did do is they sent a letter from their lawyers. He was represented by Liberty University. Our church was represented by Alliance Defending Freedom. Their lawyer sent a letter to the Iowa Civil Rights day after we filed in federal court. So the very next day, we filed on July 4th. He sent the letter on July the 5th to the Civil Rights Commission. About a week or so later, the Civil Rights Commission actually changed the wording of that guideline, that brochure that's on, everybody can see the PDF file on the internet. And what's scary about that, part one, just in a matter of days, they said, well, let's change it, which means they can change it back. They could change it to anything they want, anytime. The point is that they are unknown group of people that get to decide and arbitrate over, all of these different businesses and entities, in our state. And so it's really kind of scary, the power that they have been granted to be able to do these things. Secondly, the wording that they did still has some very difficult things. They took out, a couple of things there. But
this is the Iowa
Civil Rights Commission. One of the things in the update was that they said that, we don't, we obviously aren't going to go after churches unless it's not a bona fide religious activity that they're involved in. So the big question that came then was, well, who decides that? Are you saying that you guys are going to tell us if it's religious or not? And so really that was at the crux of this whole issue that we had in federal court. Now, a lot of people think, that it's the transgender thing and we're all about policing who goes in and who goes out of our restrooms. Honestly, yes, I am concerned about that. Could be a safety and security of our women and children in our church building. And any man dressed as a woman that went in after one of the 8-year-old girls in our church building, I can tell you this isn't an effect of Iowa law, but this is an effect of Mike Damascus, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ law. He would be hogtied and taken out into the parking lot.
All right, hold your thought. We'll come back. We'll talk about this more. If anybody's got any questions or comment, today is the day. It'll be 4 o'clock. So 515-244-0077 is the studio line, or you can text to the Service Legends text line at 515-809-0993. My guest is Pastor Michael Damascus,
Fort Des Moines Church of Christ.
And you're live here on The Truth, 99.3.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put back using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody, I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza, and it's got Graziano sausage.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
21 minutes after 3 o'clock, 3:21 in the afternoon. J. Michael McCoy on a Thursday. Tomorrow, a very interesting show. We have a gentleman who represents one of the largest not-for-profit cancer healing, cancer raising money. What, Susan G. Komen, is that right, Chris? Is that the...
Yes.
And, well, tell me how this went. Did we contact them or did they contact us?
Here's the short answer. So Roger Dahl is the executive director of Susan G. Komen of Iowa, and their offices are actually here in our building. And
that drab office building?
In our drab office building.
Yeah.
And so I ride up and down the elevator and got to know Roger a little bit. He and I have a mutual friend, and I was thinking about him because their race is coming up, and I actually shot out I know a little bit about Susan G. Komen, and I have this thing in the back of my head that like this, and I couldn't remember why.
You want to know why?
Yeah, hang on a minute. And so I shot out a few questions to some friends that I thought might know, and they told me why. And I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. And I said, what do you think if I had executive director Susan G. Komen on the radio? Do you think that'd be a good idea? And they said, probably not. And I was like, but Roger's a good guy, and they got their race coming up, and I want to raise money to defeat cancer. That sounds really great. And so I reached out to Roger, and I said, look, man, let me tell you about our station and who we are and what our deal is. Would you want to come on and talk about Susan G. Komen and the race with our audience? And he said, I'd love to. And I said, you don't mind that we're going to get people are going to be mad at you because you give money to Planned Parenthood? And he said, let's talk about that. So he's going to come on and talk about the whole Planned Parenthood relationship between Susan G. Komen and Planned Parenthood relationship, whatever that is, as it currently stands. And so please tune in and feel free to call.
And from the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ, Pastor Mastis is here, and we're going to get back to the lawsuit in a minute.
Sure.
But is that right? Planned Parenthood, is that the reason you...
Yeah, I would have a hard time with the Susan G. Komen Foundation simply because of their support of Planned Parenthood. And I don't know how he'll particularly answer the question. But the issue is that they do indeed give funding to Planned Parenthood for cancer research and cancer prevention through Planned Parenthood, who by perform mammograms in any of their thousands of clinics across America. So it's just really aggravating. That's the part that is frustrating to, I think, most Christians about that. So,
we're gonna have Roger on Friday, so we're gonna hear it from the bird's mouth. I don't know.
Do I want to ask you this on the air or off air? We'll talk a little strategy off air, just in case he's listening.
Yep.
All right, Frank.
So how does Planned Parenthood, do they farm their breast exams out?
All Planned Parenthood does in their clinics is they do a manual breast exam. They'll do that, even though you'll hear typically Planned Parenthood officials talking about being able to do cancer screenings in their clinic, making it almost seem like I feel like Paul Blart, the mall cop. We'll turn a little to our side and put our hand on our hip, giving the illusion that we have a gun when we all know we don't. And it's kind of like Planned Parenthood does the same illusion that they actually do provide mammograms, but we all know they don't, and they do a lot of their fundraising based upon that very thing, and it's a big farce. It's a joke. So I don't want to get sidetracked on that. So
yeah, I don't either. But this is probably it's interesting because in my walk with Jesus and my ministry, I'm kind of on that pendulum swing, and I'm kind of love or give more kindness and less for the stuff that you have to battle. And if I had a facility, I'd be doing the same battles you are, but I don't have those limitations here, so I don't have to. But the one thing that I am vicious, and I'm using the word, I'm as vicious as what's that kind of dog nobody likes? Pit bull when it comes to Planned Parenthood. I mean, I would never do anything physically. There's crazy people out there. Well, I shouldn't call them crazy. Hold on, I shouldn't call them crazy. There are some people out there who are even more vicious than I, who have bombed or whatever. I would never do anything
that is crazy.
Yeah, okay, I would never do anything like that. But up to that point, I'm there. Yeah. I've picketed them. I'll talk about them on the air over and over and over. I went there one time to try to get a tour and had my shirt on. They know who I was. And, of course, I didn't get the tour. I was not allowed in. And that didn't seem to matter to anybody, that I wasn't allowed in. And where they get their funding drives me crazy. I like Loretta Siemens a lot. She's been a friend of mine. You know who she is? She's been a friend of mine for 30 years. She's in the publishing industry. I'm in the broadcasting industry. She was with Business Record and City View and all that kind of stuff. She was given the Alumni of the Year award at Dowling a couple of years ago. And a few people, one including me, rose holy hell because she had been on the board of Planned Parenthood. Those two just don't jive. Unless you're telling me it's okay with Catholics to have abortion, which the last time I looked, the Pope would still not clear that one. And so you're welcome to come in if you want to.
I probably can't.
You're just welcome.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, I'm
trying to get to the top.
Well, I am. I want to get back.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I want to get back to that topic. You mentioned the last break something that I wasn't sure I heard right. That they determine what is a religious activity and what is not. So if I heard you right, if your facility would be used for church, it wouldn't be okay for them to use the bathrooms. But if it was used for some other kind of, secular activity, right, the bathrooms could be used for transgender.
Correct. And if we didn't make accommodations for that, and it goes farther than that, the wording and the guidelines in the Iowa Civil Rights Commission is that if we, as a pastor, if I make a transgender person feel, quote unquote, unwelcome, direct words from the guidelines, if I make them feel unwelcome by my use and choice of pronouns, I'm not using the proper pronoun for identification. Say it's a male dressed as a female, and I keep referring to him and he. I can subject to punitive damages and based upon these guidelines. And so that was a big part of this whole thing. And I want to get to specifically to the ruling. And yes, the Civil Rights Commission had set themselves up as we are the arbiters in determining what is and what is not religious. And in a church.
Who are the arbiters?
The Iowa Civil Rights Commission were setting themselves up as that. They were the ones that were saying, well, we obviously are the ones that know what is religious and what is not religious. Now, when we had our case and our hearing...
That's just crazy.
Well, that's why...
inmates running the insane asylum.
That is why the lawsuit was filed. And their whole point, and they wanted our case to be dismissed outright. The city did. The Civil Rights Commission, by the way, that was... his right-hand woman, who was, his lieutenant attorney general, she was the one arguing for the state and for on behalf of the Civil Rights Commission, saying that, listen, this is all unjustified fear-mongering that this church is bringing forward. There has been no incident, no episode, no injury has resulted. And so they're saying that these things, we do not have a problem with, many of these things that the church has listed. And so it's, we're saying that this is not something that they have to worry about. And go ahead.
So did they claim you didn't have any standing to bring a case at all?
That's exactly what they claimed. And they had both, the city and the state, has filed a motion to dismiss our case. And the judge, thankfully, on her ruling last Friday, denied the city and the state's motion to dismiss. Right. Said that they clearly have a justifiable fear that cannot be founded just simply because the state will say, "Oh, don't worry, we have to go farther than just the state telling us, don't worry, we're not going to come after this stuff." It has to be founded upon law. And so the judge did not grant them their motion to dismiss our case, which means we did have standing, which means we do have a case. And those are wonderful, wonderful things, kind of going forward. But there's other parts of her motion or her ruling that are imperative, because part of it was she also denied our motion for preliminary injunction, which means that we wanted the Civil Rights Commission to not be able to enforce their guidelines or their practices while this case is ongoing. And she denied that. And the reason that she spells out in her ruling that she denied that, by the way, you can read the full ruling, the document, and all that stuff at adflegal.org.
adflegal.org.
Yeah, that's their website, our attorneys, adflegal.org. And just do a search, Fort Des Moines Church of Christ. Just do a search for us, and you'll find us. You'll find the judge's ruling. But the other part of the ruling was she denied our motion for preliminary injunction. All of the items in the complaint are clearly, in her mind, religious activity. And she said, more than that, and this is the big, giant win, it is never, in her opinion, in her ruling, the state's role to determine what is or is not religious in a church. In fact, it's just the opposite. The church determines what is or is not religious, and the state just has to ask, is this a religious activity? And if the church says yes, then the state must take the church at its word. And so that's fantastic part of this ruling.
That's what she said in the ruling?
That's what she said in the ruling.
Okay, let me give you an example. If a church was to be running a daycare.
And that is one of the examples given by the Iowa Civil Rights Commission.
Okay, so if a church was running a daycare that would not necessarily be a religious organization, this could come in and say, well, the transgendered could use the bathroom to their choice when the daycare is operating, as opposed to like if it's a church function. Mm-hmm. Same bathrooms.
That's in essence what they were trying to say. But what our lawyers argued is very clear. Like, go to another example, like a polling place. Our church is a polling place. And so they were saying, well, that's kind of, in my clearly the very reason that we open up our doors to the community is based upon our conviction and our religious idealism that we want to be good neighbors and reach out to our community and try to serve our community in whatever capacity that we can. And they were even sharing the examples of the fact that we have one, family that has joined our church. She used to be one of the judges, one of the election judges there in our precinct. And because we just became friends and garnered a relationship, her and her husband joined our church. And so why do we do what we do? We do it because of our religion. We do it because of our convictions. And so to try to parse out and say that, that's clearly non-religious. No, it's not. It's not clearly. It's because of our religion that we do the very things that we do. We have a daycare. We open up our doors to have a polling place.
Well, even in some base sense, the simple fact that you have a building. There's a religious purpose that you have a building. You meet somewhere, you gather, it's open to the public all the time that it's open to the public. The building itself is a religious building, and it's part of your religion.
And that was part of the problem with the original wording of the guidelines, is that they said, well, we don't think that this is applicable to churches only when they have a service that would be open to the public. It's like, what service does a church have that's not open to the public?
Right, exactly.
All right, let's take our next break. If you've got questions for Pastor Damascus, you can certainly do that. Of course, he's with the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ. 515-244-0077. That's the studio line. Jebediah will take that phone call. Or Chris is watching the Service Legends Truth text line today at 515-809-0993. We're coming back live here in Mac's World.
Send me a text and say hi.
Till the Lord comes and calls me away.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, don't forget, we are less than 2 weeks. Well, I count 14, 15. We are 18 days away from the 2016 election. It's hard to believe that we are that close, given that Iowa has been in the middle of this for 2 years. But one of the things that the family leader is doing, if you go to if714.com, www.if714.com, they will send you a text at 7:14 in the morning and 7:14 in the afternoon, and it'll be a Bible verse, some type of scripture that will reinforce what something about government and following the leader, not the game, and stuff like that. And so, for heaven's sakes, get yours now. It doesn't cost anything. In fact, I don't even think they do anything else but just send the Bible verses.
Yeah, essentially that's it. I mean, there's a link to where you can buy Bob Vanderplaat's book if you want to, but it's free. I mean, and they're not trying to get you. I mean, yeah.
All right, so that's www.if714.com. Check that out. All right, my guest for the first hour today is Fort Des Moines Church of Christ pastor Michael Damastis, and that ruling on the from the ADF. Legal.org. That's adflegal.org and the Iowa Civil Rights Commission. Basically, was it a home run? Was it a triple? Did we win everything we wanted?
Yeah, we got way more than we ever expected we would get in the ruling. In particular, there's the second part, like I just kind of spelled out for you, was that our motion for preliminary injunction was denied because all of those religious activities that are spelled out in our complaint are in her mind and her purview very clearly religious, and so they are protected activities, which is very good because it's spelled out now. And so if you were wondering, can I preach on these issues? Yep. If you're wondering, can I put up a bathroom policy in my church? Yep, you can. And at issue, I don't want to jump ahead to anything here, but let me go to the third part of the ruling. The third part of the ruling is that the judge said, in her definition, to meet the standard of what is considered a public accommodation, you have to, in some form, receive a government subsidy in some form, some way. And so she says that, in her opinion, means that the church is not a public accommodation, this is where the lawyers are like overwhelmed, because we never expected that. We didn't expect that definition of the judge. And so it opens up, frankly, a lot of questions that I don't want to try to answer on that. But I will tell you this, what it does mean currently with this ruling: every church in the state of Iowa is protected. Every church in the state of Iowa is not under the eye or the thumb of the Iowa Civil Rights Commission in accordance with their guidelines about sexual orientation and gender identity. And so that's a fantastic win for us.
And that's because, what was it about the church is not, I don't want to say not a public place, but what was the language that you used there?
Yeah, she said that we are not, by definition, a public accommodation because we do not receive any form of a government subsidy. And so that's her definition. I would say that isn't exactly how we were arguing the case. That isn't exactly how the state or even the Civil Rights Commission or the city of Des Moines was arguing the case. So this definition was almost like a gift wrap baby. And it's like, wow, here you go. And so it's kind of amazing that we did get this ruling. But it's a wonderful thing. So that's kind of where we're at, on the issue. And those are the three parts of the ruling. The motion to dismiss was not granted. The motion for a preliminary injunction was not granted, but that also is very good news, the way she spelled it out, and that we aren't even considered a public accommodation. That's all very, very, very good news for the church in Iowa.
We've got texts.
We have texts from the Service Legends Truth text line. Clutch, just come on up to the mic and you can jump in just a second. Go ahead.
We've got a couple of texts that I want to read. You can send us a text at 515-809-0993. Just a reminder that First Call Bail Bonds reminds you not to text and drive. Here is your first text, Pastor Michael Damastis. You go, Pastor. Thank you for standing up for what is righteous on behalf of us believers. You are in our prayers.
Thank you.
And that same texter had a follow-up question, and I think this is important. How can we help as believers? What should we be doing?
Well, I think that, I said this in another conversation, but I think I want to say directly to other pastors is don't be scared. Most of the time, the bully has no teeth. We have the gospel and the power of Jesus Christ behind us. And so I know it's intimidating to stand up to authority, especially the government itself. But through the power of Jesus Christ, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to stand up and say, no, it's wrong. For it seems like forever they've been saying, hey, whatever you do in your little church building, that's, go ahead and do it in your church building. Just don't do it outside. Well, now they're coming into the church building saying, well, wait a minute, your bathrooms, your showers and the people that come in, you got to make sure they're welcome, whatever. They're telling us how to operate inside our building. And so that's inherently wrong. And so that's part of what this whole fight was. A lot of people try to pigeonhole it into just, we're trying to police who goes in and goes out of the bathroom. That's not the case at all. It's really about the role of the government and the role of the church.
Love it. We've got one more text. Again, you can send us a text 515-809-0993. Here's the question.
To the Service Legends Truth text line, also brought to you by First Call Bail Bonds. They'd like to remind you to not text and drive.
That's right. Here
is it already?
Nope, it got moved. It's all right. When more texts come in, things move. Here's the question from the texter, Pastor Michael. I have trouble understanding how letting a transgender person use your church's restroom violates the church's members' rights to practice their religion. If I could do that again, I'll read that question one more time. It's the same question here. I have trouble understanding how letting a transgender person use your church's restroom violates the church's members' rights to practice their religion. So maybe another way of saying that is, what does it matter to you?
Well, it matters a great deal to me that the government would dictate how I believe and practice what human sexuality is or is not in my own church building. That's what's at stake. The government has no business telling us how to believe and how to practice human sexuality. We have a core of our belief about what we believe it means to be male and female. And we believe that God's word is very clear on the issue of sexual identity and what it means to have genders that are male and female. And by the way, just kind of as an aside, I'm going to be preaching on this. One of my sermons to be submitted as part of this whole federal court case, which was crazy. But I'll be preaching on this sermon, this sermon that I had to submit to this court case. I haven't been able to preach it, and I'm going to preach it on October 30th. So if you want to, come and hear a biblical view of gender identity, come to the Fort Sunday morning, 10 a.m. on October 30th, and that's going to be the sermon that Sunday morning. And I'm excited to preach that because I've had this sermon done for months. You can talk about getting ready for Sunday. I've been done for this one forever. Yeah. But
do you podcast?
Yes, yeah, and all of the sermons are online. So I mean, if you can't make it, just go to the godsfort.org and you'll be able to find it. After a few days or so, it'll be up.
Godsfort.org. Okay.
Yeah. But here's the point. To answer that person's question, how does it hurt me or affect me? How about I come into your house and tell you how to operate your restrooms in your home? It doesn't matter if you agree or do not agree with me. At what's at stake is, do I have sovereignty in my own facility? Are you serious? You're telling me that I have to change what I do because you don't agree with me? That's not the whole issue at all. Let's go into a Muslim facility, shall we? And let's start dictating to them how to use their facilities. We don't do that, but it seems to be acceptable with churches, and that just makes me mad.
And we'll find out how mad you can be, and also where Clutch is at. What's bugging Clutch? That's coming up live here. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, I love my job. Couldn't do it without you. So thanks for listening to 99.3 The Truth. Yep, I said the truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit card fondly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network news, and then some local news stories, including I need somebody to enlighten me on this whole plane thing with the ISU chancellor or president or whatever it is. Is this just the Register just trying to hype something up against ISU or the FFA or whoever it is? I mean, is this really a deal? I just need somebody to fill me in. I've got what the Register says, but I need to know what you say.
Future Farmers of America?
Huh?
You said the FFA.
FAA.
FAA,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm sorry.
Mike's on his game today. You are, dude. You are on your game today,
Microphone.
Mike is on his game today. Over. I got headphones on, boss.
Well, get your headphones. They're right there. They're right there.
Hang on a minute.
What do you act like you're a
I walk into a studio, you're talking about transgender this and transgender that. You got an angry pastor over here
He's
who's
not
just
angry.
No, his way
Righteous indignation
of expressing anger is a lot different and more mature and more gooder.
Than mine.
I walk in here, I'm here 7 seconds dropping a GD bomb, and I apologize. I own that, and I apologize for that. But this is good radio today, guys.
Well,
what?
What do you expect? You and I've we've known each other for 20 years. What do you expect?
Maxzilla, you do great radio all
and
the time.
I'll tell you this. I will say this, like confessionally, I had told, I made Mac and Chris aware about our court case, sometime back, and I told them whenever I'm allowed, I will be on this show first. This is the first interview that I'm granting on this whole topic because I wanted it to be right here because I believe in this station and I believe what you guys do and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Yeah. And of course, when this is over, I will put this up on Facebook. And I have no doubt that this is going to be a highly listened to podcast or watched webcast.
Okay.
I think people want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I think people want to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've only got a few more minutes, and you've got an emergency that you need to deal with at church. Yeah, let's check out the Service Legends Truth text lines, brought to you by First Call Bail Bonds, reminding you not to text and drive.
So we had a text question in earlier.
You realize Bob is not going to continue your little thing with the... Yeah, he's much more mature than that.
Can I see that?
Yes, yes.
No.
Have fun with the bell clutch.
Oh, no. All right, thank you.
Enough with the bell, man. I'm sorry.
You don't like the bell.
Look at his face like he took the price out of his Cheerio box.
That was my favorite thing. All right. So we had a
my
text.
dollar back.
I lost I lost my bell. I lost my dollar. And this is just a sad day. Why do I even care?
Better hide your cell phone.
I have trouble understanding how letting a transgender person use your church's restroom violates the church's or the church members' right to practice their religion. I think you did a good job answering that, Pastor Michael. And then that same texter responded back, and he disagreed with you on receiving accommodations from the government. He said, actually, or he or she, I don't know. The texter said, actually, churches do receive accommodations from the government. They do not have to pay property tax for their ministry. Housing is not taxed, etc.
Well, I think she's mixing up the word subsidies and accommodations, or he or whoever's responding, or to be politically correct, it. I just, my thing is this, is that that isn't, she or he might think that is what is a public accommodation subsidy, that we are tax exempt, but tax exempt status for churches predates the Constitution even. Just check your history. Churches have never been taxed in the entirety of our nation, even before we had a constitution. Churches were never responsible for paying property tax. So you just take that up with history, and we'll kind of leave that one there.
Very good. You can send us a text at 515-809-0993. First Call Bomb, but
go ahead. I'm sorry.
First Call Bail Bonds reminds you not to text and drive.
Just make sure Pastor Michael is out of here in about 4 minutes, and he's got to scoot. So if you send a text and he's not here to hear it, I'll forward him on to you.
Okay.
All right, Frank?
Do you think there's any potential chance of this being fought again? Are you prepared if it's fought again?
It's being fought right now in the state of Massachusetts. ADF is representing 4 other churches on a case that is identical to ours. The state of Massachusetts went farther than the state of Iowa. The Attorney General of that state did indeed declare that, yes, churches are responsible for being a public accommodation. The Attorney General said, he even said this, if you have a spaghetti supper and it's open to the public, then these public accommodation guidelines and laws are applicable to you as a church. See, here's the deal. People say, well, it's very clear that a polling place, when say a church is going to be a polling place, it's very clear in my mind that's non-religious. When we discussed, well, that's not necessarily the case. But even if they decided that it was non-religious, even if that's where they came down. So that's a clearly sectarian, secular activity. So the church has got to change. The answer isn't the church changes. I don't have to sterilize my church of anything religious. The answer is get the heck out of my church. Go find another place to have a polling place. They approached me. I didn't go begging the state to be a polling place. They came to me. And so the answer isn't for us to sterilize our facility. The answer is if the state's coming in that manner, go somewhere else. And I'll tell you what, you think it's going to be hard for people to vote now? Many all across the land of the free right now today. And if they want to go down this road, it's going to be hard on every citizen in America on the issue of voting because that's a big deal. And you don't have the church sterilize itself of religion just because you're coming in, even if it's by your definition a non-religious activity. That's not the case. That's not the answer. The answer is get out and go find a place that you want to believe is sterile enough for you to do your activity.
So what you would be a kind of a coverall would be religious outreach, whether you was having a hot rod night in your parking lot. Mm-hmm. You're ensuring your facility for whatever functions you're holding in your facility. You're ensuring that facility is a religious facility,
right?
And you're using that as a religious or a community outreach or a community outreach to the community,
right?
So anything that you do would fall under that,
right? Every activity we have is born out of our religious conviction and our ideals.
Yeah.
So we don't do stuff just for the sake of, hey, let's do something. Let's think of something non-religious to do. Churches don't operate that way. Churches do everything they do because of the command of Jesus Christ and to love God and love people. That's why we do it. Sometimes loving people means that you open up your doors, you let them come in, you let them use your facility. That's why we do what we do, because we're acting out our belief system.
So what's next? What crazy person's going to walk into your church and try to push the envelope? Well, how would they do that? Would somebody?
Well, we've got a ruling by a judge that will be published, and that is that we are protected. And so we're not responsible for these guidelines anymore. We don't have to worry about violating these guidelines.
Just for churches?
That's just for churches. Every church in the state of Iowa
Restaurants,
right now.
Target.
That's not in the purview of this. We're talking about churches. And so, that's a good thing. And it's a giant victory, by the way, for Christians all over the state.
Well, Pastor Damascus, thank you very much for coming in today and sharing the story. We sure appreciate you and all the work that you do out at the Fort Des Moines Church of Christ there on Army Post Road. Okay, we're coming back. A couple of local news stories that of interest to me. Number one is the plane at ISU. I don't get it. And somebody says the DOT can't issue you speeding tickets with speeding cameras. And they may be right. It's coming up next, live on The Truth.